Hey guys, so we've been talking about when to use quotation marks and about capitalization within quotation marks. So today I want to start talking about punctuation with our quotation marks. Okay, so I want to talk about what to do with all of our punctuation marks, our periods, commas, question marks, exclamation points, when we start adding those quotation marks, right? Where do they go? Do I put them inside the quotation marks? Do I put them outside the quotation marks? Okay. So let's start with commas and periods because they kind of work the same way with quotes. So commas and periods that are part of the overall sentence go inside the quotation marks even if they aren't part of the original quotation. Okay? So let's look at some examples. The best investments today, comma, quotation marks, according to Smith, comma, are commodities and emerging market stocks, period, quotation marks. Okay, so you've probably noticed, or maybe not, but when I've broken up quotations in the middle, I've put commas to mark where I kind of broke up the quotation, okay? So the quotation marks will go around the comma if the comma goes with a word inside the quotation marks. That's a confusing way to say that, but since my comma comes right after today, which is part of my quote, all right, my quotation marks are going to go on the outside of that comma. So the comma is going to be inside my quotation marks, okay? All right, and then over here, I've got my period, and I put that inside the quotation marks, okay? All right, so incorrect, we don't want to put the comma and the period outside of your quotation marks. That's not going to help you. That's not what we want to do. All right, now if you have to give a page number, so if you're doing like a research paper and you got it from a specific page, then you put the period after that page number. So you can see an example of that here. But in all other circumstances, the period should go inside your quotation marks. All right, now, unless they are part of the original quotation, I'll show you some examples of that, all marks other than commas or periods are placed outside the quotation marks. Okay, so let's look at an example. She provides a thorough list of problems in her most recent article, Misery in Paradise. She doesn't provide a solution. So my semicolon is not part of my quote, okay? And since it's not a comma or period, I'm going to put it outside the quotation marks, okay? Let's look down at this one with a question mark. Wasn't it Dickens who wrote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times"? All right, since my whole sentence is a question, not the quote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times," I'm going to put my question mark outside the quotation marks. Okay? All right, so let's do some practice and talk about where to add the quotation marks in each of these. All right, let's look at number 1. Okay, so we want to look at our sentence. Who else has had a great impact on a country's history? Asked Terry. Okay, so my quote is who else has had a great impact on a country's history. Now, I've got this question mark, and I want to ask myself, is my question mark part of the quote or not part of the quote? All right, and I can see that this quote is itself a question, so I'm going to put the question mark inside my quotation marks. Okay? All right, so let's look at number 2. Well, Ben remarked, Mohandas Gandhi inspired a non-violent revolution in India. Okay, so I'm going to put my quotation marks around well. That's the first part of Ben's quote. All right, and then I have this comma. All right, since it's right on my word well, which is in my quotation marks, I'm going to put the quotation marks outside of my comma. All right, and then I'm going to put quotation marks around the rest of my quote. Mohandas Gandhi inspired a nonviolent revolution in India. I'm going to make sure they're on the outside of that period. Okay? All right, Gandhi inspired Martin Luther King, Terry added. Okay, so I've got my quote, Gandhi inspired Martin Luther King. So I've got to ask, is this exclamation point part of my quote or not part of my quote? And it sounds like Terry is saying it in kind of an excited tone, which would make it part of my quote. So I'm going to include it in my quotation marks. All right, so let's look at my last one. Was it Gandhi who said, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world"? Now I have this quote, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." That's my direct quote. And then I've got a question mark. So I've got to ask myself, is the entire sentence a question mark? Or is the entire sentence a question? Or is just my quote a question? Okay, and looking at it, since I'm starting out with this question, was it Gandhi who said, then that means my whole sentence is a question. So I want to put the quotation marks before my question mark because it doesn't go with the quote, it goes with the whole sentence. Okay, so we're going to do some more practice with this. So let me know if you have any questions tomorrow.